the first hour of Rebel Moon director's cut, right? Because okay, here's the thing: I want to see Zack Snyder's vision, because I think Zack Snyder is a director of some. I would say has done some very, very good stuff. I think his Justice League is the pinnacle of the superhero movie genre, right? I really do. I think it's like Lord of the Rings of superhero movies. It's stunning, right? And boy, would I like to see the rest of the movies in that cycle, right? But I genuinely found it stunning. So I also liked his Watchmen. 300 was excellent. Sucker Punch looked gorgeous, was shit, right? It was him doing a heavy metal story, and just he can't, like, don't write for yourselves that. I did enjoy the zombie one, right? That was just silly fun, right? Like that was Zack Snyder really, I think, at his best, right? I think it's he felt like unencumbered by anything, right? And I liked it a lot. What else? What other Zack Snyder movies have there been? I don't know. I think that's a good overview. I mean, there's Batman versus Superman, which I think had the same with Justice League, the most screen accurate Batman ever, right? And there's, I mean, what I didn't like about Martha, nobody likes that, but everything else I thought was pretty good, right? I enjoyed it, and Man of Steel. Okay, I mean, it was building up to Justice League, and Justice League I thought was stunning. Right, and would I've loved more in that universe? Yes, there was like 2 more Justice League movies, weren't there, or 1 more Justice League movie? And I love the whole, post-apocalyptic thing where he's there with the Joker. I thought that's awesome, right? I like Suicide Squad in that era. I would have loved to have seen a Ben Affleck Batman, like a Court of Owls, maybe. That would have been awesome. Or something with Deathstroke. I mean, Deathstroke was always threatening to come in. What's the name? I can't remember the name of the guy. The guy from True Blood, just as it went shit. The werewolf guy. Anyway. And the great thing is, you all know what I'm talking about. Right? Who was it? There was who was it from the Howard Stern show? I think Sal the stockbroker, maybe, right? Maybe his. He said he had an uncle. It might have been somebody else on the show, right? And an uncle who described Buffy the Vampire Slayer as Jew broad who kills Draculas. Right, well, that's kind of true. Fine. Well done about Sal. Oh, we're talking about because I saw. I was explaining why I saw Rebel Moon. So I watched the original version. I was like, I found it visually interesting and somewhat compelling. And after I started watching the second one, but could only go 10 minutes, I was like, I don't think I really care right at this point, right? So, but I wanted to see what his vision was, right? His creative vision. I think it's worth looking at because I think he's, a very not soiled. I think he really he can come up with greatness, right? Like I'd love to. Okay, you know what Zack Snyder film I'd love to see him direct? Raid on Entebbe. Oh, that would be off the chart. He would be perfect for that, right? If you don't know, Raid on Entebbe was when there was a hijacking in the 70s, and a plane full of Jews was kidnapped to Entebbe. And the way the Israelis got them out, well, now they're saying it was a short-range missile that took out Hanania, right? I don't know how you do that. Like, where do you fire it from? Right? If it's a short-range missile. Anyway, what was it? Oh, just seeing that. Hezbollah will strike civilian targets deeper in Israel as war fears heighten. Well, I know, we're waiting bloody for it. Oh, whatever. Anyway, what was I going to say? Zack Snyder, right? Back on Zack Snyder. Yeah, right. So what Israel did, they did this incredible operation where they it was Idi Amin was the president. So they had somebody, a body double for Idi Amin, and they copied his car and they like flew in under radar cover, and they came into the base and they looked like Idi Amin in the car. All right. And so they let him in, and they had all the paratroopers paratroopers. Yeah, I think it was them. Then attacked the base and saved everyone. Right. It's the most incredible mission ever. Right. The only person died was, the officer that died was Yoni Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu's brother. They've done a couple of movies of it. One had Richard Dreyfuss play him, I think. Right. It's a good movie, but man, a Zack Snyder Raid on Entebbe movie, that would be the bollocks, mate. Oh, that would be awesome, right? I mean, really, genuinely, that would be awesome. So yeah, I saw Rebel Moon. I'm like, okay, I think that's like interesting. It strikes me as like a 2000 AD strip, like an adaptation of a 2000 AD strip. That's what it felt like to me, or like kind of like or maybe heavy metal, right? It had a good vibe to it, and I know it sort of is a Star Wars project, and now it's something else. I would love to hear how it morphed from one from the other, right? I'll be fascinated to hear that. But again, I found that I can only get through 10 minutes of the second part. That's even though I'm finding it visually interesting, I just I can't. Right. So I wanted to give his full vision a good try. So the first part is 3.5 hours. I think the second part is 2.5 hours or 3. I don't know. So I think I'm going to do it in pieces. Now, here's the problem with it. Again, visually, like all Zack Snyders are visually fantastic. What's the problem with Zack Snyder material when Zack Snyder writes Zack Snyder's material? It's Zack Snyder, right? Zack Snyder is his own worst enemy, right? Really, genuinely is, and he gets his knows to understand what's too much and what isn't. Is poor, right? And it. So I've seen the first hour of it, right? So I think I'm going to review it in pieces, right? Because why don't you just make it as a mini series, like a 6-hour mini series? That you got to start thinking in that kind of way now. Anyway, so it starts again. It starts off. It's good, but it's gratuitous. And I found it neatly gratuitous and off-putting, right? They made the bandits be so incredibly awful that it's beyond hating them. You're just like disgusted, like ugh, that's really gross. So, but again, it's this. You have this pre-credit sequence where you got the bad guy, who I think he's great in this, by the way. Skellen, whatever his name is. The bad guy. Here, let me pull up a page about it. Rebel Moon. Doink. Pull up the Wikipedia. What's the name again? Ed Skrein, who plays the bad guy. He is awesome. He is so good as this bad guy. He's wonderful. Very silky and evil, right? But a little bit too evil. But I do like him. He's because he's naturally charismatic, which makes it much more interesting, right? They're much more evil and horrible. But so they're defeating this planet, and you get through exposition. They're looking for some rebels. It's taken longer than expected, right? So already I'm getting much more like the whole. Everything's filled in more. I got much more of a detailed worldview, right? And I think that's quite a testament to good storytelling, because I got so much more from this little bit they added in. So they're defeating this planet, and then it starts to get gross, right? So it's the royal family, right, who are fighting their way back to the throne room. And while they're doing that, you're seeing them like strip these women naked as they brand them as slaves. And I think that's just gratuitous, mate. There's no real need for that, right? There's no need for that. We already knew they're bad. Now you're just overselling the point. It feels like gross, right? I'm not really into it. then you get this guy is like super duper evil, right? He gets the son, right, who's, I don't know, 18, 20, and he has this giant like big stick, and he says to the son, I'll let your mother and your sister live if you do what the emperor says. And the emperor says, take this and smash your father's head in. Right? And his father's like, yeah, you should do this. Right? It's our only chance. And then that's his whole story, and he becomes one of the characters who was like a minor character in the non-director's cut. So you filled out this guy's story a lot. I think he'll probably have more to say. Fine. But again, I just found, and then, like, again, spoiler warning, but like, just how he is, after they take the kid in, to become an officer in their army, or grunt in their army, then he kills, thankfully he kills the mother and the sister, because otherwise they're going to become like sex slaves. It's just gross. It's too much. Zach, it's too much. Look, honestly, Zack Snyder should take a really great comic writer who wants to do film and TV. Grant Morrison, perfect choice. Again, I'm a big proponent of Grant Morrison's Brave New World. I liked it a lot. Which I hope Problem Being's in the audience, because they always hope in the audience, but I hope he's not, because he hated it. Right? With of every fiber of it, I loved it. I absolutely adored it. I think it's probably one of the best things. It came out in 2020. Anyway, Grant Morrison, he can write, and that's Zack Snyder's failing. That intuition to know what's too much and what when you're just feeding your id. But there was good exposition in it, and so I'm. This is why I'm saying I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep on. I'll break this into a few pieces, then I'll probably edit it all together to make one video. But okay, so then it's more stuff you saw from the movie, and I got bored. Right, all the stuff on the planet about Sophia Bull, whatever her name is, Sophia Bultella. And she's a good lead. I have to tell you, she is a good lead, and it doesn't feel woke having a female lead. It's fine, right? Because I know she can't really beat up these huge people, but she could in a comic book in the 70s, and that's fine, right? For me, that's fine. Like she looks like built enough that it's like what? Well, I mean, do you criticize your Paul in the same way? I mean, really? Well, I'm not sure I believe that person's motivation. Right? Fuck's sake! It's like spank bank eye candy, essentially. If you're into that, right? Which fair enough, good for them, right? But they have this whole bit on this idyllic colony where they're all farmers, and it must have been drawn out because I fast forwarded it because again. Way too gratuitous, right? They've had their harvesting, their planting festival or whatever, where the head of town said, "Oh, we all gonna fuck each other." So this harvest comes in, and it's the thing where they all go and have sex. So literally, everybody in this world is a degenerate in some one way or another. I'm like, well, okay then. So then there's this lengthy sex scene, this is where I fast forward. Goes on way too long, right? For Sophia, whatever her name is, and it's just like I felt it was unnecessary. Again, it's too gratuitous, right? So then then I watched from when the bad guys show up on the planet, and you get much more of an understanding what's going on there. I don't know how, but like now it feels like much more of a layered and textured story. I'm just taken out of it by this extreme grossness, right? And again, I'm assuming everybody saw the original version, so I'm spoiling that. The bad guy kills the nice leader of the village, right? And says, okay, and now you're going to give us like most of your food, and I couldn't give two shits, right? Or we're going to just kill you. and it leaves a garrison there. You get introduced to the robot played by Anthony Hopkins, which I love. Right, I haven't got this whole backstory yet, but I do like this whole. It was a whole series of warrior robots who fought for the king, and when the king was murdered and this new regime took over, they refused to fight. Right, but Anthony Hopkins is a great choice for that voice. Right, again, there's a lot of good artistic, creative decisions. Right, with it, and a lot of bad ones. So I think that's as far as I got. So like about an hour in, right? So I will continue watching it. Is there? Well, I'm not going to recommend it until I finish at least the first part. So yeah, we will be doing that in dribs and drabs. Maybe I'll do another hour tonight after this after the stream. There you go. I like that poster. It's very retro, old school. Okay. So I have been plowing through Rebel Moon. I think Child of Fire. I don't know. The director's commentary. This post is actually very helpful. So I saw the original version, the non-director's cut, and I thought it was. I didn't mind the first part. Right, I got through it. It wasn't great, and then I couldn't get through any of the second part. I got like 10 minutes in. But I thought, okay. I like Zack Snyder, right? I think he's done a lot of very interesting things in cinema, right? I like that he has a unique creative vision, right? I think these are all good things. And I think these are things that should be supported, right? So, and this seems to be the direct cut seems to be something very much his creative vision, and like as an artist who has like done art, which I have. Genuinely enjoy before. I wanted to really watch this piece and evaluate it, right? So I have to break it down. This is going to be the second part of the review. The third part, I got still like half hour to go, right? Which gives you an indication that this is a very weird movie to review, a very difficult movie to review because in some ways it's epically awful, right? Like awful in a way that you can't even consider how awful it is, right? It is breathtakingly awful. In other ways, it's very, very, very interesting, right? And there's a lot about it that's very, very good. Visually, it's stunning. And look, this is what Zack Snyder needs to do desperately. He needs to graft himself to a good writer, right? Like if he co-wrote this with Grant Morrison, it would have been awesome, right? But as it is, the ideas are good, but they're not strung together in a way that really works, right? So, okay, essentially, it's a Magnificent Seven in space, right? And the movie is like basically the first half where they're gathering up the people. So, you have this this like mining village that's this mining moon that's threatened by the evil empire. This is the evil empire. And this started life as a Star Wars project. And so the director's cut adds a lot more interesting stuff into this. Like makes it a much more rounded and complete picture. It's still reasonably shit in lots of ways, but it's like again, I just wish he had somebody to like meter himself off because the big problem is he goes. He goes off the deep. He goes too far, right? His villains are like just too evil, and it's not even like fun. It's gross at that point. It's like, oh, okay, enough already. He's a great villain, Ed Skeen. Like I think he does a genuinely good job. So basically, look, the first part of the review ended with them. They set up, who these people are, and they're off. Trying to recruit people to say they're trying to get this is a whole different plot to the original version. They're trying to find the rebels who the evil empire's tracking. But again, they have these really interesting like little rituals, like when they kill the leader of a world or they dominate a world, then they have these dudes in red who are like this quasi-religious stuff. They pluck out one of their teeth. And they put it into this, pluck out one of the teeth of the dead leader, and they put it into this like picture of the
there. I think the Holy Princess. Fine. So you get all of that going on. So off they go on this mission, and they meet they go to Mos Eisley, and they meet what's his name, Charlie Human, with a very weird Irish accent, unless it is his real accent. And they go along with this farmer dude over here, and they and off they go. This guy to try and get these rebels. Now on the way, they stop off and meet more people. First one they pick up is the woman from Cloud Atlas. So she's basically a rather cool Jedi ninja nun. Essentially, it's again, these are great visual ideas. I just wish they were strung together with a more coherent plot, which they're really not. So she has these special swords that when she connects to her goddess, they light up and glow. And they introduce her in this scene where she's defeating this evil spider woman, right? And that whole thing is done quite well, right? And then they convinced her to come and join and fight the evil empire. And she was quite easy. The next one was the shittest one, right? It's this bloke, who I remember last time I saw him was in Downton Abbey playing Mr. Nanky Poo or something. I can't remember. This super hot guy that came to visit in the first season, and everybody wanted to shag him, right? So it comes out later that he's the son of a king, another king been murdered by this evil empire, and he's the slave on this outpost moon, and they got this giant winged horse thing, right? And so they make a bet, and it's so weird that if they let this dude, if he's able to calm their giant winged horse thing, then he'll let him go through with them. If he fails, then the main woman, who's pretty good by the way, Siva Batugia, whatever her name is, and the weedy farm bloke, they become slaves as well. And of course he does. And it's a really weird sequence. You're like, well, this is just it's just strange. Why would he do all this? And then that just didn't make sense. It was kind of cool and it was exciting to watch him wrestle this giant flying horse thing, right? Griffin, whatever it was, I don't know. So then he lands, and then the Griffin thing eats his ex-owner. I don't know why he gambled him away. So none of that made any sense to me. But off he went, and he's got basically no character whatsoever. The Chinese warrior nun, the Asian warrior nun woman, I thought, she was good, right? She's pretty good. Most interesting. We're going to go to most and least interesting. Most interesting is is it Annie Hopkins? Yeah. Annie Hopkins, who's voicing this robot wearing a stag's head. Okay, this stuff is awesome, right? Those scenes where this is a robot, and he was part of a cadre of robots that were sworn to fight for the king. The king was murdered, and they've refused to fight since then, right? They've been passive. So you had the Imperial Guards. They were staying on the moon. They were shaking down for this grain, and they were going to rape a girl there, and that's why Sophia Batuga, whatever, came out of hiding and went fighting. And this robot, so the robot in the end walked in and joined the fight. He shot the bad guy. And that blew his mind, right? So then for the rest of the movie, well, so far, he's on this weird, and again, because it's narrated by Anthony Hopkins, it's beautiful. It is Anthony Hopkins, isn't it? Let me make sure I'm saying the right person. Anthony Hopkins. Yeah, Anthony Hopkins. Fine, thank God. That we it'll be I got what's her name? The woman from Talk TV. Alex Phillips, who I think is reasonably hot, funnily enough. I kept getting confused with Jess Phillips, who is a Labour MP. So Chalk and G. Yeah, no, Anthony Hopkins. Anyway, so because he's never narrating the story, right? And he's narrating this like internal journey that he's going on, right? And it's you don't know where he's going. I haven't seen it. He's going on this weird, interesting journey of self-discovery in a way. And again, I found those bits absolutely beautiful, right? I just very, very well judged. They looked fantastic. I like Safam, whatever her name is. So anyway, so next one they meet is Damjun, this bloke over here, right? Who is this is who they were looking. They're looking for General Titus. General Titus, who battles, who was a great general for the emperor or the king or whatever. So they find him in a gladiator world, and he's like unconscious, asleep, drunk out of his mind, and they like clean him up. He's like, let me go, no. And then you go, well, wait a minute, how about this? Okay, don't come to help these farmers because they're hopeless. Come because you can get revenge. And he's like, oh yeah, great idea. And so they're talking around from suicidal self-destruction to joining them on their quest, like that. It was just kind of silly. Then finally, then they go to this planet where they meet where this king is hiding these rebels. That's connected with these rebels. The bloke over here with the black forehead, right, and with black eyes. They're the rebels. So they meet up and they're like, oh, we can't be, it's too dangerous. And it turns out that Charlie Human, spoiler, is a bad guy, is a traitor, and they're all trapped, right? They're all trapped. And that's, I think, we'll leave the review for now, right? And I'll do a review at the final part of part 3. I guess we'll do tomorrow if I watch it tonight, which I may or may not do. I don't know. I really genuinely don't know. Again, because it's so epically awful in many ways, it's really hard to get through. Even though, again, this is his legitimate creative vision, right? So this thing, again, it has much more of a vibe of a European comic from the 80s. Rebel Moon. Now, okay, this is by far the most interesting character in it, right? By far. Okay, so in case you don't know, this is my 3rd time reviewing it. I'm still on the first part, right? I finished it last. So the basic plot is Magnificent Seven in space. You've got this super evil space empire. What was that? All this is done quite well. I have to say, I do like the super evil, empire, and they got a planet or a valley that grows grain, and they basically stealing their harvest from them because they're looking for rebels, right? Rebel leadership, right? That's the basic idea. And they go off looking for warriors to help them fight, which they essentially collect, right? So then there's a whole backstory mystery about the main character who used to who used to be with the evil empire. See, the empire was the empire, and then the emperor got killed, and it got bad. But she used to protect the princess of the empire site. And then this is nice artwork, this is very indicative of what this is like, right? It looks beautiful and this is really, it really is. It looks beautiful. It looks interesting. It looks innovative. It looks unique. It looks like it's got a lot to say, and it's just executed so poorly. Right, not that in the visuals it looks beautiful, right? It's the script, right? The script. Oh man, it's such a tragedy that Zack Snyder hasn't grafted Grant Morrison to himself, right? Because if Grant Morrison took the script and said, "Please rewrite this to make it work," there's so many great concepts there that are really, really, really interesting. Right, but in their final analysis, the script is just a bad one.
So you've got like these just excruciatingly bad pieces of dialogue and exposition. And it breaks my heart because it's so much Zack Snyder's creative vision. It's just he's not a writer. Bottom line, I mean, yeah, I think he's a great director, but he's not a. I don't think I could never see him write a prose novel, right? Where someone like Guillermo del Toro, I could see do that, right? So I don't think Zack Snyder's really a writer. Maybe he should write some comics. Frankly, I mean that's where he works best at, in comic. And this has a very comic book feel. Like it feels like a extended heavy metal novella. So anyway, basic plot is this: the bad guys land, and then because they get this, this is the director's cut. We get a lot more information. This is the bad guy over here. And in director's cut, he's much more evil, right? It's disturbingly nasty, right? It's not even fun nasty. It's disturbingly nasty. There's lots of weird world-building lore, like these like priest things behind him. Whenever he like smashes a rebel king's head in with a giant, that giant thigh bone thing he's holding, cane he's holding, which he does often, they take a tooth out of his dead mouth and mount it into a picture. I think with the lost princess in it or something like that. So and so there's again lots of really interesting ideas, just badly written. So this is the main woman, and she gets she used to be like this great fighter for the Imperium, and now she's like hiding out on this planet. There's lots of gratuitous sex at the beginning as well. Again, it's all very gratuitous. So they go on a hunt to find the rebels, and on the way, they pick up a whole bunch. Like this is a prince of a king that was slain, and an ex general, and a two-sworded ninja lady thing with glowing swords. Okay, so they collect up all the people, right? And about 3 hours in, the pilot, Charlie Human, or this bloke, right, over here, he turns out to be a bad guy, and he's got them all captured, right? He's got them all captured. They're all like trussed up with these like metal walkie things that look like destroyer droids from the prequels, right? There's such a gay sequence where you have this bloke riding a giant griffin thing, I guess. It's so gay. So they got them all trussed up, and this guy turns up. He comes in his dropship, and he's just like the biggest bad guy ever, right? And they're all about to be killed or taken to the Empire or whatever, and he's going to get all this like goodwill out of it. It's all good for the bad guy, right? He's looking great, and then somehow they all break out and they kill everyone. And they have he has a big fight with the main lady, Sophia, this woman, right? They have this big fight. But meanwhile, this is a robot from like the Emperor's Legion, or again I can't remember, but who they swore not to kill, and then when this girl who had been nice to him was nearly raped by the evil stormtroopers, essentially, he ended up shooting one, right? And that sent him on this bonkers voyage of self-discovery, right? Which is why he's got these antlers on, and he's voiced by Anthony Hopkins. And again, so many great ideas, right? It's just so many great ideas. Not least the ending, right? Okay, spoiler warning. The ending is there's quite a good fight, and I don't mind Sophia Bottega, whatever, being like young and small compared to the people she's beating up. We've always had that in sci-fi. I'm sorry, that's nothing new. But you can suspend disbelief for that, right? But anyway, she ends up killing him and throwing off this like. They're on these like little floating platforms like Cloud City. I wonder if that's where it was meant to take place originally, because this was originally supposed to be a Star Wars thing. And off they go. And off they go. They're happy. They think they've defeated the bad guy. However, and again, in another bit of visual brilliance, there's this. You go to this weird computer core place. There's like giant human heads with these data cables coming out their mouth. It looks fabulous. It looks like I want to know a lot more about this, right? It looks absolutely fantastic. And they download him into a new body. The bad guy, they resurrect him essentially. So he's back, okay, and that's essentially the end of part 1. I wish I could recommend. I wish it wasn't as shit as it was because it's so brilliant at the same time. That's really the problem. It's really quite brilliant, but it's man, it just needed another drive. Pat Mills would have been able to pull this one together, right? They just need a way to bring this universe together, and yet the rather uncomfortable and agonizing stilted dialogue, right, doesn't help much with that, right? It really genuinely doesn't. And it's like it's cringe bad a lot of the time, and I feel bad because it really shouldn't be, right? It really shouldn't be that bad. It's just crazy, man. But it is. It's like remarkably awful, and also somewhat stunning and brilliant at the same time. And it's a weird review. So I got 5 minutes. I got 12 minutes into the second one. And I don't know. It's like when you got a toothache, right? And you don't want to touch it with your tongue because you know it's going to hurt. After you touch it with your tongue a few times, go and a few times later you go, I'm not going to do it anymore, right? So that's where I am now. I'm like, I don't think I can go back, right? I don't think I can. I'll give it a try. But yeah, Zach. Oh man, my heart bleeds. It's not better. That's my review. My heart genuinely bleeds that it's not better. I wish it was, right? I genuinely wish it was. My name's Tzvi Lebetkin, the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe. And ring that little bell. Ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop.